Rain pressed against the glass like 1,000 small fingers blurring the view of downtown Seattle. From the 50th floor of Lumicore Tower, the city looked washed in silver. Inside the boardroom, the air felt too still. The long glass table ran like a river between two lines of executives' laptops, open coffee. Cooling eyes fixed anywhere but on the woman at the head of the room. Ava Sterling stood there, one hand resting on the back of a chair, the other wrapped around a black marker. The whiteboard behind her was almost empty. Only 3 numbers were written there: 8000000, 8 million, no dollar sign, no notes, just wait. Her dark blazer was unbuttoned, sleeves pushed just past the wrist, a faint line where a watch had been set aside. She had not sat down since the meeting started. She let the silence drag for one more breath, then spoke. 8 million vanished in under 5 minutes, she said. Her voice was steady low, the kind that did not need to rise to be heard. The client walked. Our system crashed on a live demo. So, her gaze moved along the table. Who pushed the build? No one answered. The only sounds were the hum of the air conditioning and the rattle of rain on the floor-to-ceiling windows. Someone shifted in their chair, leather squeaking. Another cleared his throat and then seemed to regret having made noise at all. Halfway down the table, Noah Reyes sat with his shoulders slightly rounded, as if trying to make himself smaller. His badge lanyard cut a diagonal across his faded blue dress shirt. He had not planned to be in this room today. He belonged several floors down in the low-ceilinged maze of the infrastructure team, where the lights buzzed and the coffee tasted burnt. From his seat he could see Ava's reflection in the glass wall behind her doubled and stretched. It made her look taller, sharper, like a second, more severe version watching from a different world. Next to Noah, Derek Cole sat very straight, pen balanced between 2 fingers, jaw tight, in a way that read as concern to anyone who did not know him. Derek wore a suit that fit perfectly, and a watch that caught the light whenever he moved his wrist. He had been on stage during yesterday's demo, smiling at the client, calling Lumicore the future of intelligent infrastructure. Now he stared at his laptop screen, as if the answer might magically appear there. Ava's eyes passed over Derek, then landed on Noah. She did not linger. She kept moving, scanning the faces lined along each side. Directors, team leads. A couple of mid-level engineers pulled in so no one could accuse her of leaving them out. No one met her gaze for more than a second. Noah looked down at his phone angled on his knee beneath the table. He had dragged the system logs onto the screen before walking in. The text blurred for a moment, then refocused. Deployment timestamps, commit hashes, access credentials. D. Cole, D. Cole, D. Cole. The tag repeated in the crucial window attached to a build that had gone live 20 minutes before the demo. Attached to a set of changes no one had reviewed. He felt his stomach tighten. The fluorescent lights overhead hummed louder in his ears. He could already see how this would go if no one spoke an internal investigation, half-hearted and rushed. A statement about shared responsibility, and then a line of names on a termination list cut to make a point. He blinked, and for a second the log was replaced by a different image in his mind. Lily in the backseat of his old Honda Fit, kicking the air, holding up a drawing from school. 2 stick figures under a crooked rainbow. The taller one had a green shirt and a brown-smeared circle for hair. The smaller one wore a yellow triangle with little blue lines for rain. "You like it?" she had asked, her voice bright. "I made the rain happy." He had laughed in the car even though he had been exhausted, even though the check engine light had been on for 3 days. Now in the boardroom, his thumb hovered over the screen. He could stay quiet. He could let the room sink further into silence until Ava picked someone herself. Or he could give her a name and start a different kind of fire. At the head of the table, she uncapped the marker with a soft click. "I am not asking for a scapegoat," she said. "I am asking for the truth. If you made a mistake, say it. We can fix broken systems. I cannot fix people who lie to my face." The word lie seemed to hang in the air. Noah's heart thudded against his ribs. He knew Derek had a mortgage, a new Tesla, a social media feed full of smiling photos from ski trips. He also knew the faces of the people on his own team. Miguel with the newborn. Priya, who wired money back home every month. Brandon, who had finally gotten his mother into a decent care facility. He also knew his own reflection, the dark circles under his eyes, the habit of waking at 3 a.m. to check error logs on his phone from the edge of his bed while the apartment around him stayed quiet. Lily's backpack hanging off the kitchen chair, a bright patch in a tired room. He slid the phone face down on his leg and stood up. The chair scraped the floor. Heads turned, small movements rippling along both sides of the table. Ava's eyes met his, clear and unblinking. Noah swallowed. His throat felt dry. "It was me," he said. The words came out softer than he meant. He cleared his throat and repeated a little louder. "I pushed the last build." A muscle flickered in Derek's jaw. It was tiny, the kind of twitch most people would miss. Noah saw it anyway. He heard someone exhale near the far end of the table, a small rush of air like relief. A pen tapped once, then stopped. Ava did not look surprised. She tilted her head slightly. "You pushed unreviewed changes to production before a major client demo," she said, "knowing the risk." "Yes," Noah answered. "Why?" He could have said he was under pressure. He could have invented a story about a last-minute hotfix about trying to impress someone. Instead, he heard his own voice say, "It seemed urgent at the time." The room felt colder. Outside the glass, a gust of wind pressed the rain harder against the windows. Drops streaked downward in crooked paths. Ava uncapped the marker the rest of the way and turned back to the whiteboard. For a moment, Noah thought she would start writing questions numbers, a breakdown of what happened. She did not. She set the marker down on the tray and faced him again. "Noah Reyes," she said, "you are terminated effective immediately." The words were clean. No extra commentary, no raised volume, just a sentence placed in the middle of the room for everyone to see. Noah stood very still. He felt his fingers curl against his thighs, nails digging lightly into the fabric of his pants. His badge lay flat against his chest. He became acutely aware of its weight. Across the table, the HR director tapped at a tablet. A soft chime sounded on the conference room screen as someone updated his status in the system. "Access revoked" flashed briefly in the corner of the display, small but impossible to miss. Someone near the window looked down at their laptop. Another person adjusted their glasses. No one spoke. Derek shifted in his seat, the leather protesting under him. When Noah's eyes flicked toward him, he caught it again, that tiny lift at one corner of Derek's mouth. It was there for a heartbeat, gone the next, but it might as well have been a grin. Ava's gaze moved away from Noah to the rest of the table. "This is not a spectacle," she said. "This is accountability. We are done here." Chairs scraped back. People stood gathering their devices, already murmuring to each other in low, careful tones, as if volume alone might draw attention. The projector clicked off, leaving only the whiteboard with its mute string of zeros. Noah did not move until the room had half emptied. He could feel the line of the glass wall at his back cool through his shirt. The rain outside had not let up. Water streaked across the city, across the tower, across the boardroom windows, blurring the bright rectangles of other buildings into smears of light. Finally, he reached up and unhooked his badge. The plastic caught on the collar of his shirt before coming free with a small, pointless resistance. He wrapped the lanyard around his fingers twice, then let it hang from his hand. Without looking at anyone, he stepped away from the table and walked toward the door, the sound of his own footsteps too loud in his ears. Noah walked out of the boardroom and into the hallway, the door closing behind him with a soft click. The carpet caught the sound of his steps, so it felt like he was gliding more than walking. People moved around him in loose clusters, speaking in low voices, already shifting to the next item on their calendars. No one stopped him. No one said his name. He kept his eyes on the elevator at the end of the hall. The badge in his hand felt useless now, a plastic reminder, its edges pressing into his palm. When he reached the elevator, he pressed the button and stared at his reflection in the polished steel doors. The fluorescent lights above washed his face pale. The collar of his shirt was slightly crooked. The elevator opened. It was empty. He stepped inside and hit the button for the lobby. As the door slid shut, Seattle rose around him again, framed by glass. The city was a patchwork of wet concrete and red brake lights. His own reflection hovered on top of it, ghost thin. For a moment, the tension in his shoulders loosened, not because anything had improved, but because the performance part was over. There was no one left to pretend for inside this metal box. His phone vibrated in his pocket. He did not reach for it. He knew the time. He always knew the time. School pickup at 3. The elevator chimed and opened into the lobby. A handful of people were gathered near reception, chatting, their voices echoing off marble and glass. The security gates stood in a neat row, flashing green each time a badge passed over the reader. His hand tightened around his own badge, then relaxed. The system would have already updated. If he tried to leave through the gates with it, the light would flash red. An alarm might sound. He did not feel like finding out. Instead, he walked to the side exit where visitors used paper stickers instead of plastic cards. The guard there glanced at him, saw the cardboard box under his arm, and looked away again, as if that explained everything. Outside, the rain hit him in the face. It was colder than he expected. The gray sky sagged low over the city, making the tall buildings feel less like tours and more like teeth. The air smelled of wet asphalt and exhaust. Noah shifted the box to his other arm and pulled his collar up. For a second, he stood under the overhang between inside and outside, watched the rain slide down the glass facade of Lumicore Tower in uneven paths. The building looked exactly as it had when he walked in that morning. Nobody looking at it would know anything had changed. He stepped into the rain and headed toward the parking garage. The cold seeped through his shirt. Droplets slipped under his collar down the back of his neck. His shoes soaked through in 2 minutes, the thin leather no match for the water that pooled in the shallow dips of the sidewalk. By the time he reached his car, he was shivering. The Honda waited for him in its usual spot on the 3rd level, a dull gray compact with a missing hubcap and a crack in the rear light. He set the box on the passenger seat and stayed there for a moment, hands still on it, as if it might slide away if he let go. Inside the box, next to the chipped mug and the tangled charger, was Lily's drawing of the rainbow. The paper had started to curl at the corners from being pinned to his cubicle wall too long. The stick figure with the green shirt looked back at him with a permanent curved line for a mouth. He leaned back in the seat and closed his eyes. The rain drummed against the roof, steady and insistent. It carried him back, not to a boardroom, but to a different kind of metal box. A car at night wipers too slow for the weather, headlights of oncoming traffic smearing into white streaks across the windshield. The sound he remembered most was not the crash. It was the moment before when Emma laughed at something Lily said in the back seat. Her laugh had always been a quick thing, bright and light, as if it surprised even her. He had turned his head for half a second, only half to smile at her. In that slice of time, the world outside had been only rain and road. Then light had flooded the car from the side, too, bright and too close, and there was the squeal of tires that were not his and the deafening crack of metal against metal and glass shattering. The car lurched, his hands too slow on the wheel. Lily's scream high and thin cutting through everything else. When he woke up later in a hospital bed, the room smelled of antiseptic and wet wool. His shoulder was in a sling, his ribs wrapped tight, his throat raw. There was a cop by the door. There was a nurse with tired eyes. There was no Emma. A doctor told him about the other driver, the blood alcohol level, the angle of impact, the way luck had fallen across the road that night. The words blurred together into one idea. Gone. He remembered Lily's small hand gripping his fingers later, when they finally let her into his room. Her cheeks were streaked with the remains of crying. She had a cartoon bandage on her forehead and a hospital bracelet around her wrist. "Where is Mom?" she asked. The question was simple. The answer was not. He had opened his mouth and had nothing. The ceiling tiles above him were lined in perfect, meaningless rows. A thin crack ran through one panel all the way across. "She is not coming back," he had said finally, the words clumsy and uneven. She was hurt. Too much. Lily had frowned as if he had told her something that did not fit the rules of her world. "But she has to," she had answered. "She said she would take me to the zoo on Saturday." He had not known what to say to that. He had squeezed her hand instead and let the silence answer for him. The weeks that followed were a blur of paperwork and casseroles from neighbors, insurance calls and condolences, people repeating how strong he was, as if strength was something he had chosen. The bills came anyway. The rent still expected to be paid. The hospital did not care how many times someone told him they were sorry for his loss. The big offers came then like they were supposed to. Recruiters calling emails with subject lines about opportunity companies that had followed his career before everything went off the road. They talked about stock options and titles, about relocation packages and signing bonuses, about working on problems that could change the world. Every offer came with the same small, deadly line tucked in near the bottom of the description. Weekend rotations, on-call, expected availability, aggressive deadlines. He did the math in his head. The time zones, the late nights, the early mornings. He thought about Lily in a daycare from dawn until dark, her drawings pinned to walls he would not see. He thought about Emma's empty side of the bed and the way the apartment sounded with only one toothbrush at the sink. In the end, he said no. Instead, he said yes to a job at Lumicore that no one bragged about having. Infrastructure technician, midnight maintenance, responsible for making sure systems stayed up, which mostly meant crawling around server racks and watching progress bars creep across old monitors while the rest of the city slept. The pay was modest. The title meant nothing on social media. The work was invisible to almost everyone in the company. It was, however, stable. He and Lily moved into a small one-bedroom in Tacoma, close enough to the highway that you could hear trucks at night, far enough that rent did not consume everything. The walls were thin, but the windows faced east, and in the morning light pooled across the floor in a way Lily liked. She called it the Sun River. Noah took the couch, Lily took the bedroom. He painted one wall yellow for her, using cheap paint that smelled too strong for a week. She picked out glow-in-the-dark stars and stuck them to the ceiling in random clumps. At night, when he checked on her after coming back from a late shift, he would see them hovering faintly over her sleeping form, a crooked galaxy that made her room feel less empty. Every weekday at 3, he parked the Honda in the same spot near the chain-link fence of her elementary school. The asphalt there was cracked and patched, the painted lines fading. He would wait with the other parents while the teachers let out small groups of children in bright backpacks. Lily always spotted him before he saw her. She ran across the yard, her yellow raincoat flapping behind her, if it was wet-out curls escaping from under her hood. She launched herself at him, with the full force of her 7-year-old body nearly knocking him backward. "Hi, Dad," she would say into his shirt, as if there was a chance it might be someone else. They built a life around those moments. Grocery store runs where she rode on the front of the cart, Saturday mornings at the park evenings, with a cheap pizza and a movie on their aging TV. After she went to bed, he opened his laptop and connected to the LumaCore network. He watched logs scroll past, fixed small issues before they became big ones, wrote quiet improvements that no one above his manager would ever comment on. Sometimes, on the rare days he went up to the higher floors for a meeting, he saw Derek leaving Ava's office, laughing a hand on the doorframe, as if he belonged there. Derek moved through the bright hallways like he was born to stand under those lights. People leaned in when he spoke. They liked his jokes. They repeated his phrases. Noah would step aside to let them pass a man in a faded polo carrying a toolbox or a laptop bag blending easily into the background. From down there, the boardroom might as well have been another country. The morning of the crash started like any other Wednesday. Noah woke before his alarm to the faint hiss of cars on wet pavement outside the apartment. The room was dim, washed in the gray that came before sunrise in Tacoma. For a moment, he lay still and listened. Pipes in the wall clicked as someone in another unit turned on a shower. The fridge hummed. The world felt suspended. He turned his head. The couch had molded to his shape over the years. A thin blanket clung to him. His shoulder felt tight where an old injury still lived, a souvenir from another stormy night. On the other side of the half-open door, he heard Lily shifting in her bed. A small cough, the thump of a stuffed animal hitting the floor. He waited to see if she would call for him. She did not. He let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. He padded into the kitchenette and started the coffee maker. The machine sputtered and gurgled in protest before settling into a rhythm. He opened his laptop at the tiny table and tapped in his credentials. The LumaCore dashboard came up in a wash of blues and greens. Green, 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 status lights blinking contently. He sipped bitter coffee and scrolled through logs, eyes moving on automatic. Overnight processes, scheduled jobs. A few warnings flagged from a lower traffic region that had already been contained. He typed small fixes into a terminal window, the commands familiar, more like a habit than an effort. Behind him, small bare feet slapped against the floor. "Dad," Lily said, her voice rough with sleep. He turned. Her hair was a nest of dark curls, pillow pressed to one side. She wore an oversized t-shirt with a faded cartoon dolphin. She rubbed one eye with the heel of her hand. "Morning," he said. "Is it raining?" "Always," he answered. She went to the window and pushed 2 fingers between the blinds. Outside, the sky was a low sheet of clouds. Light drizzle tapped against the glass. "I want my yellow coat," she decided. "Good call," he said. He closed the laptop, pretending the green of the dashboard was a promise. They had breakfast toast and eggs, the pan hissing the scent of butter, filling the small space. Lily ate with the focus of someone who understood that recess depended on calories. She chattered about a class project, something about building a model of the solar system from foam balls. "Can I use the glitter?" she asked. "You still have glitter," he said. "I thought we agreed that was an accident." She grinned, teeth small and bright. "It is in the closet. I hid it." "Of course you did," he replied. He watched her talk, watched her swing her legs under the chair, the heels of her socks brushing the rung. For a few minutes, the words "terminated effective immediately" did not exist. $8 million did not exist. There was only the small universe of their kitchen and the girl who filled it. He dropped her at school at 8, her yellow raincoat a bright slash against the gray playground. She ran toward her friends without looking back, then stopped, turned and waved both arms over her head until he waved back. Only then did she disappear into the knot of children. By the time he reached LumaCore Tower, the drizzle had thickened into a steadier rain. The building loomed all glass and steel, its surface reflecting a version of the sky that looked colder than the real thing. He scanned his badge, watched the gate light flicker green, and stepped onto the polished floor of the lobby. Up on the 12th floor, the infrastructure area hummed with the usual morning noises. Keyboards clacked, fans whirred. A nearby printer spat out pages at random intervals. The space was open, but the ceiling was low, the light slightly too harsh. Miguel poked his head over the partition as Noah dropped his bag into his chair. "You see the memo?" Miguel asked. "What memo?" Noah replied, waking his monitor. "Executive demo at 11. Big client, everything on display, full dog and pony show." Noah clicked into his inbox. A meeting invitation blinked back at him, sent late the previous night. Subject line, client demo, Luma Core Edge Suite. Requested attendance, a long list of people above his pay grade. His name appeared only as part of a group tag, Infra Support. "Looks like they want us on standby," Noah said. "When do they not?" Miguel shrugged. "Just do not let anything catch fire. I like my job." Noah smiled without showing teeth. "Me too." He spent the next hour combing through the parts of the system that would sit closest to the front of the demo. He checked redundancy paths, failover triggers, database load. The numbers came back solid. CPU usage sat well under thresholds, error rates were quiet. At 9:30, his messaging client lit up with a ping from a dev channel. "Derek, need prod access for a quick change." Noah frowned at the screen. He typed back, "Noah on demo day." Derek responded almost immediately. "Derek, just a small UI tweak. Client requested it yesterday. Nothing that touches your world." Noah drummed his fingers on the desk. One of the rules they had fought hard to put in place was simple. No unreviewed production changes within 2 hours of a major demo, especially not under the quick change label. "Noah, it still has to go through the gate." Derek already got sign-off from upstairs. There was no attached approval, no ticket number, just that simple sentence. Noah imagined Derek somewhere on a higher floor, leaning back in a chair, tie loose smiling as he typed. He glanced at the rules pinned on the board behind his monitor. Process guidelines, checklists, all the ways they tried to keep human impulse from pulling down machines. He wrote slowly, "Noah, send me the diff." There was a pause. Then a file attachment appeared. He opened it. Lines of code in a familiar language filled his screen. At first glance, it looked harmless, confined to visual components. He scrolled further. One function touched a shared service. Another adjusted a timeout value. His shoulders tensed. He could refuse. He could insist on a review call and another engineer make Derek wait. He pictured the time ticking down to 11, the growing annoyance of someone important who expected things to be easy. Derek sent another message. "Derek, look, man. You know how these exec demos are. They freak out over fonts. I promise this one. Help me out." There was a hint of impatience under the words. Noah closed his eyes for a second, then opened them again. His cursor hovered over the terminal window, like it wanted to move on its own. "Noah, fine. But next time this goes through the pipeline like everything else. Derek, you are the best. OU1. The phrase felt weightless on the screen, as if it had never carried real meaning for the person who wrote it. Noah set up the deployment command, but stopped short of hitting enter. He grabbed his phone, pulled up the monitoring panels, and lined them up on his second screen. If anything even twitched, he wanted to see it. He pressed the key. The process bar crept forward, each percentage point a small relief. Logs scrolled, showing the application, picking up changes, restarting relevant services. Everything still looked green. He watched for 5 minutes after it finished. 10. Nothing unusual. Traffic remained stable. Error logs stayed quiet. At 10:45, a notification popped up that the demo had started in the main auditorium. He saw the subject line of the calendar event like a banner at the top of his screen. He stood up, stretched the stiffness from his back, and poured himself more coffee. The pot had been sitting too long. The taste was even worse than the first cup. Miguel rolled over in his chair. "Still breathing?" Miguel asked. "So far," Noah said. He sat back down and refreshed the dashboards. For a few minutes, nothing changed. Then one graph jumped. Error rate on an edge node spiked, dipped, then climbed again. Response times doubled. A cluster icon on the map turned from green to yellow. Noah set his cup down, forgotten. He pulled up deeper metrics. Threads blocking. Memory usage in one region suddenly swung high. A server in the demo environment started throwing timeouts. Then another. "We have a problem," he murmured. Miguel wheeled closer. "What is going on?" "I do not know yet," Noah said. He clicked into the deployment history. The last change to production was time-stamped 40 minutes ago. His change. Derek's small tweak. He drilled into the logs. Cascading failures had a look. This was starting to match it. A minor adjustment in one part of the code had created a bottleneck in another. Requests stacked, queues filled. A service that had always returned answers in milliseconds now stalled. Miguel swore under his breath. A watch window flashed red. One by one, more nodes turned yellow, then orange. The errors were not contained to a corner. They were spreading across layers. A call came in on his headset before he could reach for it. "In for this is Reyes," he said. A harried voice answered. It was someone from the solutions team in the auditorium. "We are live with the client and everything just froze," the person said. "The screen is stuck. The data pipeline is dead. Their CTO is looking at me like he wants my badge on a plate. What are you doing up there?" "We are working it," Noah replied, eyes on the scrolling messages. "Tell them to give you 5 minutes. Stall if you can." "They are not the 5 minutes type," the voice snapped, then cut off as someone else spoke on their end. Noah dragged a crash dump into a local window and skimmed. Root causes did not care about schedules. They unfolded at their own speed. He saw the chain now. A new call to a shared service. An unexpected lock. A timeout that cascaded into a pool of connections that never returned. It would not take out the entire platform, but it was enough to make the demo feel like someone had pulled the plug halfway through a song. He killed the failing service, triggered a rollback, watched the system stumble, then begin to catch itself. Lights on the map flickered. Some green seeped back into the yellow. Miguel kept glancing at the clock. The phone on Noah's desk lit up with a different caller ID. Upper management. He ignored it. Another minute. 2. The worst of the spike eased. Requests started to succeed again. The dashboards calmed, though not completely. His headset rang once more, the same solutions team contact. "We lost them," the voice said bluntly. "Client thanked us for our time and said they will be re-evaluating their options. In other words, we are done." Noah closed his eyes briefly. "I am sorry," he said. Silence, then a resigned sigh. "Yeah," the voice replied. "Get ready. They are going to want someone to explain this." The line clicked dead. Within 20 minutes, the email went out. Subject: Emergency Postmortem Conference Room 50B. Required attendance all relevant stakeholders. Noah read it twice, then pushed back from his desk. He could feel the weight of the decision forming even before it arrived as a clear thought. He pulled up the logs again, not to look at the system now, but to confirm what he had already seen in the earlier diff. The last human touch before the failure. His own credentials attached to the deployment. Derek's messages still open in the chat window sat like a trail of crumbs. He could screenshot everything, package it, email it to Ava, and let the evidence speak. He could walk into the conference room and say calmly and clearly that Derek had pushed for an exception, that the code had not been reviewed, that process had been ignored. He imagined Derek's face, the practiced frown, the way he would widen his eyes, spread his hands, say something about miscommunication, about mixed signals, about how he had understood the risk differently. The way the blame would thin itself out until no one could name its owner. He also imagined Miguel's newborn, Priya's wire transfers, Brandon's mother in her care facility. He thought of his own bank account, the numbers tighter than he liked to admit. He thought of Lily's yellow raincoat hanging on its hook, already drying from the morning drizzle. "Do not," Miguel said quietly from the next chair, as if reading his mind. "Do not volunteer for anything. Let the leads talk. That is their job." Noah looked at him. Miguel's eyes were tired, guarded. He was not being cruel. He was being practical. Noah nodded, but the thought did not settle. He stood and grabbed his notebook, more out of habit than need. He walked to the elevator with a line of other employees, all of them wearing the same expression. Confusion mixed with something that had more edge. The car arrived. They stepped in, badges flashing at the reader. The ride-up was quiet. Someone checked their phone. Someone else smoothed the front of their shirt. Noah watched the floor numbers climb. 12, 20, 30. His reflection hovered in the glass, layered over the rain streaks on the city outside. He felt the building around him, the whole structure resting on a foundation that was not made of concrete and steel. It was made of choices like this, many of them invisible. Some selfish, some decent, some cruel. The doors opened onto the 50th floor. The hallway stretched ahead, leading to the glass-walled room where Ava waited. Noah stepped out and started walking. By the time Noah made it back to the 12th floor, the meeting was over, and his badge status was not just a line on a screen. It was reality. HR had given him a thin manila folder with severance paperwork and a careful, trained expression. She had said phrases like company policy and transition support in a soft, neutral tone that did not touch the raw place behind his ribs. Then she had left him with a cardboard box and a polite nod, as if they were done sharing a space. He stood at the entrance to the infrastructure area. For a moment, the box tucked under one arm, looking at his cubicle as if it belonged to someone else. The glow from his monitors had been replaced by a washed-out screensaver. His chair sat at a slight angle the way he had left it that morning, when everything still seemed normal. Miguel saw him and started to rise, then thought better of it. He half stood, gave a small nod that did not quite become anything, and sank back down. Around them, keys clicked, screens flickered, people leaned over desks to discuss minor issues in low voices that pretended this was just another afternoon. Noah crossed the room. Up close, his cubicle looked smaller than he remembered. He set the empty box on the desk. The cardboard sighed under its own weight. For a second, he simply stared at the few personal things that marked the space as his. 4 years, and this was what it came down to. He picked up the mug first. White ceramic, a little chipped around the rim with crooked blue letters Lily had painted at a school event. The glaze had run in places, so the words looked like they were melting. World's Best Dad. He turned it in his hands, thumb tracing a fingerprint-sized smudge in the paint near the bottom, then set it in the box. It landed with a dull clink. Next was the photo pinned to the low fabric wall. Lily in her yellow raincoat standing in a puddle at the edge of a parking lot, arms wide, face tipped up to catch raindrops. He pulled the pin out carefully and laid the photo on top of the mug. He coiled his extra charger cord and dropped it in, followed by a battered notebook, with a few system sketches on the first pages and grocery lists on the last. A small plastic dinosaur that had once stood guard beside his keyboard went in after that. Lily had given it to him during a phase when every conversation somehow involved prehistoric reptiles. There was not much else. He opened the top drawer. A few pens, a half-eaten roll of mints, a pack of sticky notes, a crumpled receipt. He swept them into the trash instead of the box. They did not feel like the kind of thing you carried out with you. He shut the drawer with a gentle push. On the back of his chair, Lily's yellow raincoat hung where she had left it a week ago. They had come in on a Saturday so he could patch a server without staying up all night. She had spun in his chair while he worked the coat a bright blur, the hood flopping over her eyes. When they left, she had insisted the day was too sunny for rain gear and forgotten it there. He looked at the small arms, the faded star pattern on the pockets. The sight pricked something in his chest. He reached out on instinct, then stopped when someone cleared their throat behind him. He turned. A security officer in a dark uniform stood at the edge of the cubicle, hands folded loosely in front of him. He was familiar in the way all the guards were familiar present, but rarely involved. "Mr. Reyes," the guard said, "they asked me to walk you down when you were ready." Noah nodded. 2 minutes. The guard glanced at the box, then at the photo still visible on top. He hesitated as if he wanted to say something, but whatever it was died before it reached his mouth. He stepped back instead, giving Noah a thin margin of privacy. Noah turned back to the chair. The raincoat weighted bright against the gray fabric. He told himself he would remember it. It was impossible to miss. He could not walk out without noticing it again. That was what he thought, as he lifted the box, testing the weight. It was lighter than he expected. He gave his desk one last scan, eyes moving too quickly, and then nodded to the security officer. "All set," he said. They walked out together. The murmur of conversation dipped as they passed. Screens became fascinating subjects. No one looked up long enough to meet his eyes. The few who did glanced away quickly, as if direct contact might draw trouble toward them. An intern near the printer shifted his stack of papers and gave Noah a small apologetic smile that did not quite reach his eyes. It was the only open expression on the entire floor. Noah returned it with a barely there lift of his chin. The hallway felt longer on the way back to the elevator. The security officer led but stayed half a step to the side, not in front, as if guiding rather than escorting a threat. Noah kept his gaze forward. The box dug into his forearm. At the elevator, they waited in silence. A group from another department arrived and stopped a few feet away. Their conversation faltered as they took in the scene. One of them, a woman with a tablet pressed to her chest, shifted her stance to angle her body away. Another pretended to check his watch. The doors opened with a soft chime. Everyone stepped in together. Noah stood near the back, the box balanced on his hip. The security officer positioned himself near the panel thumb, hovering over the lobby button that had already been selected. The ride down was quiet. Someone's cologne, sharp and citrus, cut through the sterile elevator smell. The floor numbers ticked lower, 48, 47, 46. At 38, the car slowed and stopped. The doors opened. Ava Sterling walked in. Her presence rearranged the space without her saying a word. Conversations already sparse stopped completely. People shifted to give her room. She wore the same dark blazer as in the boardroom now, buttoned hair pulled back tight. A faint trace of rain dotted the shoulders of her jacket, as if she had been near a window. Her eyes moved over the occupants of the elevator, assessing and landed on Noah. They stayed there for a moment, calm and unreadable. Then she turned and faced the doors, hands clasped loosely in front of her. The guard straightened almost imperceptibly. No one greeted her. No one dared fill the silence she seemed to own. The car resumed its descent. Noah became aware of his heartbeat, of the way his pulse thudded in his neck. The box suddenly felt heavier. He kept his gaze on the back of her head. A small strand of hair had escaped the neat arrangement and curved behind her ear. At 20, a woman got off mumbling something that could have been, "Excuse me." At 10, another man stepped out shoulders stiff. With each stop, the elevator thinned. By the time they reached the lobby, only 3 people remained: the security officer, Ava, Noah. The doors opened with a soft sigh. No one moved. Ava spoke without looking back. "Why did you say it was you?" she asked. The question floated into the space between them. It was not an accusation. It was not gentle either. It felt like a hand closing around something fragile to test its strength. Noah stared at the back of her blazer. "You asked who pushed the build," he said. "I did." "You know that is not what I am asking," Ava replied. He hesitated. The guard shifted, then tried to become part of the wall. Noah swallowed. His voice sounded rough in his own ears. "If no one stepped up, you would have gone after everyone," he said. "The team, the juniors, people who had nothing to do with it. They would have lost their jobs. They have kids, parents, bills." "And you do not?" Ava asked. "I have a daughter," he said. "I will figure something out." The doors began to inch closed. The security officer stuck his hand out and triggered the sensor. The doors slid back, listening. Ava turned then. Her gaze searched his face in a way that made him want to look away. He held it. "You are very confident in your ability to survive unemployment," she said. He gave a small, humorless smile. "I am very confident in my ability to carry more weight than a 23-year-old, with student loans and a newborn," he answered. "That is all." For a second, something flickered in her expression. It was not quite sympathy, not quite approval, more like recognition. "Interesting calculation," she said. She stepped out of the elevator into the lobby. The guard followed, and Noah had no choice but to go with them, the box pressed to his chest like a shield. The lobby was a bright echo of polished stone glass walls, looking out onto the street, where rain still fell in fine, relentless lines. The reception desk hummed with discreet activity. People crossed the space with purpose, their shoes clicking on the floor. "Escort him out, please," Ava said to the guard, without taking her eyes off Noah. Then she turned and walked away, her heels soft on the tile, her reflection doubling in the glass as she passed. Noah watched her go, then let the guard lead him to the revolving doors. The glass panels turned slowly, offering slices of the outside world. The rain hit him again as soon as he stepped through. It was colder now, carried on a wind that slipped under his collar and down his spine. He stood just beyond the overhang, adjusting his grip on the box, trying to shield the photo on top from drops. He took 3 steps toward the sidewalk before it hit him. The raincoat. He stopped, turned, and looked back through the glass. From here he could see up into the 12th floor, a vague shape through sheets of water and reflections. He could not see the cubicle itself, just the general area, an anonymous corner in a hive of similar corners. The knowledge sat heavy in his chest. Lily's coat was still there, hanging on the back of the chair. It was her only good raincoat. She caught colds easily. She would expect it. She would go to her hook tomorrow morning and reach for it, and it would not be there. He pivoted and walked fast back to the entrance. The security guard from upstairs had just re-entered the building. A different guard manned the front, now a broad-shouldered man with a buzz cut and a face that looked like it had practiced sternness into habit. Noah pushed open the inner glass door. "I need to go back up for a minute," he said. "I left something at my desk." The guard stepped in front of the sensor gate. "Employee access only," he replied. "You need a valid badge." "I know, I just got let go." The words tasted strange. "It is my kid's coat, yellow on the back of my chair. It will take 30 seconds. Once separation is processed, there is no re-entry," the guard said. He did not sound hostile, just firm. "Company policy." "Look, I am not trying to steal equipment," Noah said. He lifted the box a little, as if to prove that everything he cared about was right there. "It is a child's raincoat. She is 7. Should have grabbed it when you had the chance," the guard said. "I am sorry. I cannot let you through." Noah felt something crack, not loudly, more like ice underfoot starting to give. He stepped to the side and pressed his palm against the glass wall. From this angle, he could see into the back of the lobby, but the upper floors were still a blur. The building offered him no help. His reflection stared back. Wet hair, dark circles, a cardboard Bondi with his life in it. He saw Lily's face in his mind when he would tell her he had forgotten it. The small crease that appeared between her eyebrows when something did not make sense. He stayed there, hand on the cool glass, not sure whether he was trying to steady himself or hold the building in place. What seems to be the problem? The voice came from behind him, clear and controlled. The lobby quieted by a fraction. Noah turned. Ava Sterling stood just inside the entrance, close enough that the soggy air from outside brushed her face. She had no umbrella. Dark strands of hair clung near her temples. The shoulders of her blazer were damp. The guard straightened at once. "Ms. Sterling," he said, "I was just informing Mr. Reyes that he no longer has access." Noah lifted the box a little, feeling foolish for the second time in 10 minutes. "I left my daughter's coat upstairs," he said. "They will not let me grab it." Ava looked at him, really looked from the wet hair to the box to the way his fingers clenched around the cardboard. Her eyes were a cool gray, but something in them shifted like clouds breaking for a second. "How long will it take?" she asked. 30 seconds, he said. "Less." She faced the guard. "Let him in," she said. "Ms. Sterling, I cannot. The system already flagged him as separated. We are not supposed to allow re-entry without clearance from HR." "You just got clearance from me," Ava said. "Open the gate." The guard hesitated, torn between two different sets of rules. Then he pressed a button. The glass gate slid open with a soft beep. "Thank you," Noah said, the words catching in his throat. Ava stepped aside to let him pass. "Hurry," she said, "before someone decides to write a memo about it." He walked through the lobby, suddenly aware of the click of his wet shoes on the floor. His badge did not work on the elevator anymore, so the guard from upstairs used his own to tag Noah up to 12. They rode in silence. At his cubicle, the monitor still glowed with the idle screensaver. The chair sat exactly where he had left it. The raincoat hung there, a small splash of yellow in a sea of gray and blue. He set the box down and took the coat carefully, as if it were made of glass. The fabric crackled faintly under his hands. It smelled faintly of the detergent he used at home, and beneath that the lingering warmth of Lily's skin from the last time she had worn it. He folded it, then decided he could not stand the idea of creases through the center, and held it against his chest instead. For a moment, he closed his eyes, breathing in the familiar scent. "That is a lot of trouble for one piece of clothing," a voice said behind him. He opened his eyes and turned. Ava stood at the edge of the cubicle, hands in the pockets of her blazer, eyes taking in the sparse space. The security officer lingered a few steps behind, pretending to examine a nearby fire extinguisher. "It is hers," Noah said. "She hates the others, says this one is lucky." "Lucky," Ava repeated with an almost curious lilt. She stepped closer, close enough to see the little stars printed along the hem of the coat. Her gaze flicked to the photo in the box, then back to his face. "I looked at the system logs last night," she said, "after the crash." His pulse bumped up again. She continued matter of fact. "The failure points were not in any module you touched," she said. "The commits tagged with your ID do not match your usual patterns. The deployment windows do not align with your assigned shift." He stared at her. The security officer turned his attention from the fire extinguisher back to them, suddenly interested. "You did not bring down my system," Ava said. The statement sat between them, heavy and simple. Noah's first instinct was to deny on reflex, an old habit from a career of smoothing issues over. His mouth opened, then closed again. He could not quite force the lie out, not after the way she was watching him. He swallowed. "Then why fire me in front of everyone?" he asked. For a moment, Ava did not answer. The hum of the overhead lights filled the silence between them. Somewhere farther down the row of cubicles, a phone rang twice and stopped. She studied his face, as if the question were a problem on a whiteboard. "Because I needed to see who you were," she said at last. Noah let out a short breath that was almost a laugh. "You could have just checked my references," he said. "References tell me who you are when you are winning," she replied. "I wanted to see you losing." The bluntness of it landed hard. The security officer shifted his weight from one foot to the other, clearly wishing he were anywhere else. Noah tightened his grip on the raincoat. "You got what you wanted," he said. "You saw me lose." "Did I?" Ava asked. Her eyes did not look away. There was no heat in them, no obvious satisfaction. Only a sharp, measuring focus, like she was lining up two versions of him and deciding which one was real. Noah opened his mouth, then closed it. He did not know how to answer that. Ava's gaze flicked to the box again, to the mug with its crooked letters, the pinned photo of the dinosaur. 4 years of showing up collapsed into cardboard. "We are not going to finish this conversation here," she said. "Come with me." Noah frowned. "You just fired me," he said, officially, in front of everyone. "I am aware," Ava replied. "Bring the coat." He looked at the security officer. The man lifted his brows slightly as if to say, "Do not look at me. This is above my pay grade." Noah considered the still glowing monitors, the empty cubicle, the raincoat in his hands. He felt the exhaustion in his bones, the kind that went deeper than a single bad day. He also felt a small and welcome thread of curiosity. "Fine," he said. He left the box where it was Lily's photo resting on top and followed Ava into the aisle. The security officer trailed behind them at a discreet distance. They walked past rows of desks, past faces that turned away at the sight of them. The click of Ava's heels and the softer tread of Noah's worn shoes set an odd rhythm on the carpet. At the elevator, the guard used his badge to call a car. The doors opened quickly as if waiting. Inside, Ava hit a button Noah had never noticed before. A slim rectangle tucked between the rows of familiar numbers. No label, no glowing floor indicator beside it. "How many floors does this building have?" Noah asked. "Depends who you ask," Ava said. The doors closed. The elevator did not move at first. There was a faint vibration, a sense of systems waking up behind the panel. Then the car began to rise. The normal floor numbers did not appear. Instead, a simple progress bar crept along the display, blank and gradual. "Is this where you take people you want to really fire?" Noah said. The words came out dry. "If I wanted you gone," Ava said, "you would already be in your car." He looked down at the raincoat. The yellow fabric glowed under the elevator lights, bright as a caution sign. "Why me?" he asked. "You have a whole company full of people you can test." Ava rested one hand lightly on the rail. "Yesterday you were in a room with 30 people who all had reasons to stay quiet," she said. "Only one person chose not to. I pay attention to that." "There is a difference between brave and stupid," Noah said. "I know," she answered. "I am hoping you fall somewhere in between." The elevator slowed. The progress bar filled completely. A soft chime sounded different from the one he heard on the other floors. The doors slid open to reveal a narrow corridor painted a flat utilitarian white. No art on the walls, no potted plants, just a strip of recessed lights along the ceiling and a series of black doors with no numbers. Ava stepped out. "Welcome to the part of Lumicore that does not exist on the building directory," she said. Noah followed. The carpet here was thicker, absorbing their footsteps. The air felt cooler, drier, as if filtered more than the rest of the building. The security officer stayed in the elevator. "You are not coming?" Noah asked him. "Not cleared," the guard said. He sounded both annoyed and impressed. The doors closed on his face. Ava led Noah to a door at the end of the corridor. A small panel was mounted beside the frame, quietly blinking. She pressed her palm against it. A soft beep. Then she leaned closer. A beam of light swept across her eyes, quick as a blink. Another tone sounded lower. "Sterling," she said. "Grant guest access one time." The panel flickered, reading her voice, then glowed green. The lock clicked. Inside, the change was immediate. The room opened into a wide space lined with curved glass walls. Racks of servers stood on raised platforms, their indicator lights pulsing in quiet patterns of green and blue. A low hum filled the air, the sound of machines thinking. Screens wrapped around one side of the room, each displaying different streams of data. The floor underfoot was smooth and dark, with subtle lines that led toward the center, where a wide circular console rose from the ground. Above it, a large display hung suspended from the ceiling, tilted downward like a lens. On that main display, a field of shifting color rippled and reformed. Lines of light arced and dissolved. It reminded Noah of a storm radar, except this storm changed in response to invisible questions. The air had a faint metallic scent like heated circuitry and ozone. Noah stopped just inside the door. "What is this?" he asked. Ava walked toward the central console, not checking to see if he followed. Her hand brushed lightly along one of the rails as she passed. The large display responded, streams of data adjusting. "This," she said, "is the reason this company exists." He took a few steps forward. The text on the nearest screen came into focus. It was not a typical dashboard. It was a tapestry of inputs and outputs, models training against live feeds, graphs annotating themselves. At the top of one panel, a name glowed in white letters. Project Aurora. The letters were clean sharp. The word sat just above a swirling cluster of golden dots. Noah read it once, twice. "I thought Lumicore was an edge infrastructure shop," he said. "All your press is about latency and reliability." Lumicore is whatever I need people to think it is, Ava replied. What we sell now is cover. She turned to face him, leaning back against the console. 5 years ago, I started this company in a rented workspace with a server rack I had to bolt together myself and a pile of code that barely compiled, she said. We did not pitch investors another app. We pitched them this, a system that can adapt itself faster than we can write instructions for it. Noah looked back at the main display. The golden dots shifted in complex patterns, clustering around certain inputs, dispersing around others. Every movement looked intentional, even if he did not yet understand the language. You built a general AI, he said. I built a system that can learn, she answered. General is a marketing term. Aurora ingests streams of data, finds patterns, builds, and adjusts models on the fly. It can optimize supply chains, traffic grids, energy consumption. It can, in theory, manage entire infrastructures without human intervention. In theory, Noah repeated. In practice, we are very close, she said. Close enough that someone out there decided it would be worth $2 billion to make sure we never ship. The number hung there, big and unreal. Noah thought of the 8 million he had just heard about in the boardroom. 8 million, and the way it had felt like the roof collapsing. 2 billion was something else entirely. The colors on the screen shifted again. A ripple of orange cut through the gold, then smoothed out. His systems engineer brain cataloged the possibilities without needing to be asked. Multiple models, weighted outputs, real-time correction. You keep this off the books, he said. It was not a question. Officially, this is a research environment for future products, Ava replied. Unofficially, it is the heart. Everything else is circulation. Noah stepped closer to the central console. One of the smaller screens showed logs from the previous day, condensed and abstracted. He recognized some of the signatures. Others were unfamiliar, deeper in the stack than anyone on his level had been allowed to touch. If I did not bring down your system, he said slowly, someone tried to, connected to Aurora. Now you are asking the right questions, Ava said. She dragged a window across the central display with 2 fingers. A new view filled the screen. Camera footage from a server room, timestamp in the corner. The image was slightly grainy but clear enough. A masked figure entered the frame hood, up shoulders hunched. They moved with purpose, crossing to a terminal, sitting fingers flying over the keyboard. For several minutes, the only motion was the rhythmic flash of their hands and the blinking of machine lights. Then at one point, the figure pushed the hood back to wipe their forehead. For a single second, the camera caught their face. It was Derek. Even in the washed-out light of the server room, Noah recognized the cut of his jaw, the set of his mouth, the careful hair. Derek's eyes flicked up to the camera as if he had known it was there and decided he did not care. The video continued. Code poured across the screen within the screen. A progress bar moved, logs updated. Ava froze the feed and pulled up another overlay. Lines of text showed access attempts, authentication checks, overridden safeguards. A small label in the corner read, Credential Noah Reyes. He was smart, she said. He used your ID. It routed everything through your profile. On the surface, it looked like you spending an extra night working too hard. Noah watched Derek's hunched figure typing under his name. And deeper than the surface, he asked? Ava tapped another key. A new diagram appeared, this one showing network paths. One line pulsed red, branching off to a location marker. Derek's condo, she said. His personal network. He tunneled through a secure channel I did not even know existed. Her mouth tightened. That part is on me. Noah stared at the red pulse, then at his own name in the corner of the log. What did he put into the system? He asked. A virus tailored to Aurora's learning core, she said. It was not aimed at our production edges. The crash you saw yesterday was collateral. The real payload would have triggered tonight when we brought Aurora into partial live testing. She swiped to another view. Simulated projections, arcs of potential outcomes, error trees that spread like spider webs. It was designed to corrupt the model building process in subtle ways, she said. Not to crash us, to make Aurora unreliable, useless, a very expensive ghost. Noah thought about what it would mean to have a system whose suggestions you could no longer trust, a brain that occasionally lied or misjudged in ways you could not easily detect. How did you catch it? He asked. I read the logs myself, she answered. I do that sometimes when I cannot sleep. I noticed patterns that did not look like Aurora, or like any of you. And you still let me take the fall, Noah said. Ava met his eyes. There was no apology in her face, but there was something like gravity. I needed to see how you would react when the floor dropped out from under you, she said. If you had fought blame someone else broken in some predictable way, I would have moved on. Her gaze flicked to the coat in his arms. "Instead, you walked into the fire to shield people who did not deserve it," she said. "That told me two things. One, you are either very foolish or you care about something more than your own position. Two, Derek miscalculated. He expected you to behave like him." Noah felt a bitter taste in his mouth. "So you turned my life into an experiment," he said. "Your life was already an experiment," Ava replied softly. "I just paid attention to the result." He looked back at the footage of Derek frozen mid-typing, then at Aurora, its golden motion continuing above them, oblivious. "And what now?" he asked. Ava straightened, pushing away from the console. "Now," she said, "we make sure Derek Cole never has the chance to touch this system again." Noah did not realize he had started pacing until he reached the far edge of the glass wall. Below, the city spread out in gray and silver. From up here, the streets looked clean, the rain smoothing everything into straight lines and soft reflections. Inside the lab, nothing was smooth. "How long have you known?" he asked. Ava checked something on a side monitor before answering. "I connected the dots last night," she said. "I suspected something was wrong with Derek's reports for months. I did not know how wrong." Noah watched Derek's frozen image on the screen. The hood, the face, the casual glance at the camera. It fit too well. "He has access to this level?" Noah asked. "He had," Ava said. "Past tense." She toggled a switch on her phone. "Security," she said. "Bring Derek Cole to Aurora Lab. Use your highest protocol." There was a brief reply on the other end. She ended the call and set the phone on the console. "You are going to confront him here," Noah said. "This is where he did the most damage," she replied. "The place matters." Noah stood beside her, the raincoat still folded in his arms. It felt out of place among the steel and glass, a small domestic object in the core of something brutal and expensive. They did not have to wait long. The elevator doors at the far end of the corridor opened with a soft chime. Heavy footsteps sounded on the carpet. Two security officers appeared in the doorway of the lab. Between them walked Derek. He did not look like a man in handcuffs. His posture was straight expression, composed as if this were an unexpected meeting rather than an escort. He wore a dark suit, no tie collar open. If he was bothered by the presence of the officers at his shoulders, he did not show it. When he saw Ava and Noah, his eyes flicked between them, lingering on the yellow coat in Noah's arms. His mouth tightened for a second, then smoothed. "Ms. Sterling," he said, "to what do I owe the honor?" "Step inside, Derek," Ava said. He crossed the threshold. The security officers followed, then stopped just behind him, forming a quiet wall. Derek glanced around the lab. His gaze slid over the racks of servers, the curved glass, the central console. He gave a small, impressed nod. "So this is where the magic happens," he said. "You have been hiding all the good toys." His tone was flippant, but Noah heard the strain under it. Ava picked up a slim remote from the console and pressed a button. The central display cleared, then filled again with the footage Noah had already seen. The server room appeared, the hooded figure, the walk to the terminal. No one spoke. Derek watched himself sit down in the chair, hands moving. The moment his face turned toward the camera, the image froze. His features hovered in the air above them, paler than in person, but unmistakable. Noah glanced at him. Derek's jaw clenched. His eyes flicked to Ava, then back to the screen. "I can explain," he said. "I would like to hear you try," Ava replied. She pressed another button. A layer of log data slid in alongside the video. Access attempts under Noah's credentials. A map with a red pulse landing neatly on the location of Derek's condo. "Looks familiar?" she asked. Derek opened his hands. "This looks like someone who hates me with root access," he said. "Anyone could have spoofed my home network. You know that." Ava tilted her head. "Anyone with your clearance," she said. "Or yours," Derek shot back. Noah felt his throat tighten. "What did they promise you?" Ava asked, ignoring the jab. "Money, a title. Your name on someone else's product launch." Derek's smile thinned. "They promised me what you never did," he said. "A seat at a real table, without having to wait until you decided I was worthy." Ava's eyes did not waver. "You already had a seat at my table," she said. "You chose to flip it over." "Did I?" Derek said. He looked around the lab again, taking in Aurora with a colder eye. "You built an entire secret division without telling your own leadership team. You kept the real work down here and fed the rest of us scraps. Do you know what that looks like from where we stand?" "It looks like you were not ready to be here," Ava said. His laugh was short and sharp. "You hired me to make you look good in rooms you did not want to stand in," he said. "The polite face, the friendly story, and I was good at it. I made people trust you. I sold your vision, but you never trusted me with the thing you actually cared about." "Now I see why," she replied. she replied. The security officers stayed quiet eyes forward. On the screen, the video resumed. Derek in his hoodie leaned closer to the terminal. Code poured across the monitor. A progress bar moved. Aurora's logs recorded the intrusion. We traced the payment, Ava said. Novodyne routed it through an offshore account. That was clumsy. I expected better from them. Derek's fingers curled slightly, then relaxed. They approached me a year ago, he said. They offered partnership. Stock. They did not treat me like a replaceable mouthpiece. I did not plan to take it this far. You planted a virus in my core system, Ava said. You framed a colleague. You crashed a major demo. What part of that feels moderate to you? Derek's gaze flicked to Noah. He knew what he was doing, Derek said. He had his hands on the controls. He is not some innocent. Noah felt anger rise hot and clean, cutting through the dull shock. I pushed your change because you told me you had sign off, Noah said. You lied. That is the extent of what I knew. You did not ask enough questions, Derek replied. Neither did the client who believed your polished pitch deck, Noah said. The room seemed to shrink around them. Ava lifted her hand. Enough, she said. This is not a debate. She picked up a set of documents from the console and held them without looking at them. Yesterday you sold access to a system you did not build, she said to Derek. You risked the work of hundreds of people. You risked their jobs. You risked my company. Derek's eyes flashed. Your company, he echoed. That is the key phrase, isn't it? You talk about team, about culture, about us, but when it counts, it is always you. If it were not my company, you would not have had anything to steal, she said. He took a step forward, almost forgetting the guards behind him. They tensed. The yellow coat in Noah's arms rustled as he shifted his stance. You are not in the clear here, Derek said. You knew something was wrong with my reports. You did nothing until it hit your bottom line. Aurora has no bottom line yet, Ava said. That is what scares you? She nodded to the security officers. Derek Cole, as of this moment, your employment is terminated, she said. Your access is revoked. Legal will follow up with you about the charges that are coming. You will not be entering this building again without counsel and a badge that belongs to law enforcement. You cannot prove intent, Derek said, but the words sounded less sure than before. I can prove enough for an arrest, Ava said. The rest is not my job. She pressed another button. The screen changed to show the email thread between Derek and Novodyne, subject lines about Aurora and timelines and deliverables. Amounts were blacked out, but the tone was unmistakable. Derek closed his eyes for a beat. When he opened them again, they were flat. You think this will save you, he said. You think throwing me into a courtroom will make your problems disappear? It will not. They will come again. You made yourself a target the moment you decided you were the only one who deserved this power. I will deal with that when it happens, Ava said. He looked at Noah once more. You think she is on your side, Derek said. You think this makes you a hero? Noah did not answer. He was not sure what he thought. Derek shook his head. Enjoy it, he said. It does not last. The security officers each took an arm. Derek did not resist as they escorted him toward the door. At the threshold, he twisted his head to throw one last sentence over his shoulder. Lumacore eats people, he said. Sooner or later you will find that out. Then he was gone. The door shut behind them with a quiet finality. The room exhaled. The humming of the servers filled the space again, the constant, indifferent heartbeat of machines. Noah stared at the door for a moment, then turned back to the screen where Derek's frozen face had been. It was gone now, replaced by Aurora's shifting patterns. You could have done that upstairs, Noah said. His voice sounded hoarse. I wanted him to see what he almost broke, Ava said. And I wanted you to see it too. She set the paper still in her hand down on the console and tapped a key. The central display shifted to a different interface, softer in color, less technical at first glance. It was the internal HR system. Noah's name appeared in a profile card on the left side of the screen. Photo title department. A list of performance reviews lined up in a column each with a small status icon next to it. Do you know how many times your manager has recommended you for promotion? Ava asked. Noah blinked. My manager, he said. Harper. She nodded. Harper has been in my office 3 times in the past 4 years, arguing for you, she said. She flagged your work as critical, reliable, innovative in her words. I never saw any of those forms, Noah said. I know, Ava replied. Watch. She opened one of the reviews. A detailed document filled the screen. It listed projects Noah had led, crises he had handled, improvements he had made to the infrastructure. At the bottom, there was a checkbox labeled Promotion Recommended. It was ticked. There was a digital signature from Harper. Beneath that, another section appeared. Senior review, Ava said. Required for any promotion that touches core systems. A second digital signature sat there. D. Cole, status deferred. In the comment box, a sentence. Not ready for increased responsibility at this time. Technical ability strong but lacks initiative and visibility. Recommend reassessment in 12 months. Noah stared at the words. They blurred, then sharpened again. Open the next one, he said. She did. The pattern repeated. Strong recommendation from his direct manager. Enthusiastic comments about performance. Then Derek's name, the same deferment, the same careful, damning phrasing. Lacks initiative. Lacks visibility. I do not understand, Noah said. He told me once that I needed to be more patient. That budgets were tight. He said maybe next review cycle. He kept you exactly where he wanted you, Ava said. In a place where your work benefited him without raising your profile. She pulled up a project list. Several major initiatives glowed with completion markers. Under technical lead, some listed Noah's name, others bore Derek's. This one, she said, highlighting a large deployment, was yours. Harper confirmed it. Derek only touched the presentation. On the screen, the system showed an internal note. Primary contributor N. Reyes, client-facing owner D. Cole. Every time something went well, he stood on the balcony, Ava said. You stayed in the basement. Noah felt a tightness climb from his chest into his throat. For years, he had assumed the lack of movement was his fault. He had told himself he was not political enough, not vocal enough, not ambitious enough in the right ways. He had made peace with staying where he was because he thought he had chosen it. Seeing the record laid out, a different shape emerged, one in which his absence from certain tables had not been an accident. Why did you not see this before? He asked. The question came out sharper than he intended. Ava did not flinch. I trusted the summaries that came to me, she said. Derek handled a lot of the people-facing side of engineering. He curated what I saw. That mistake is mine. She stepped back from the console, giving him space to look. You should have been promoted 3 years ago, she said. At least once, possibly twice. Noah looked at his own face on the profile card, the static corporate headshot taken under fluorescent lights. It looked like a stranger wearing his clothes. All this time, he said quietly, more to himself than to her. He thought of the late nights, the emergencies he had handled so that other people could sleep. The times he had told Lily that he might be up for a bigger role someday, then shrugged it off when nothing happened. How many other people did he do this to? Noah asked. Some, Ava said. Not like this. You were a special problem for him. A problem, Noah repeated. You were better at the thing he said he was best at, she said. The system. He built his power on being the bridge between worlds. If you came up, he lost leverage. Noah let that sink in. The raincoat felt heavy. He shifted it to his other arm. So, what now? He said. You tell me I should have had a better life, and then you send me down to finish packing my box. Ava regarded him for a long moment. No, she said. I tell you the truth, and then I offer you a choice that actually belongs to you. Noah waited, still half expecting the floor to open up and drop him back in the lobby. Ava turned to a side station and opened a narrow drawer. Inside was a small device he recognized as a badge printer, sleeker than the bulkier units used at reception. She slotted in a blank card, its surface catching the light in a soft sheen. You said you wanted to know what happens now, she said. This is what happens. She tapped a few keys on the console, then glanced at him. Do you have any desire to work here again? She asked. He let out a short breath. I was not aware that was an option, he said. It is, she replied, for as long as this card is blank. The printer whirred softly. A thin strip of laminate rolled across an internal roller. Noah watched her hands. They were steady, long fingers moving with a kind of trained economy. The only sign of the day behind them was a faint red mark near her wrist where a watch had been earlier. What kind of job are we talking about? He asked. Not the one you had, she said. The one you should have had. She hit enter. The printer clicked and spat out the card. She picked it up, flipped it once between her fingers, then held it out to him. His photo stared back from the plastic, the same corporate headshot as before. Under his name, the title line had changed. Lead Systems Architect. He did not take it at first. The words looked like they belonged to someone else, an alternate version of himself that had taken a different turn years ago. You are serious, he said. I do not take people into Aurora to joke with them, Ava said. He reached for the card. The plastic was warm from the printer. It felt heavier than it should have. Triple your old salary, she said. Full benefits. Signing grant that will wipe out what you owe on that Honda and put something in a college fund. His eyes snapped up to hers. How do you know what I owe on my car? He asked. You filed an updated W-4 when you refinanced the loan last year, she said. I have access to the anonymized financial risk assessments we run on staff. I did the work to de-anonymize you. You did what he said. I wanted to see if what you told me in the elevator was true, she said, about being able to carry the hit better than the rest of your team. She shrugged a small roll of one shoulder. You were right, she said. You live small, you save what you can. You go without more than you admit. It should have felt invasive. Part of him bristled. Another part, the one that had spent nights staring at online banking apps, could not argue with her conclusion. Flexible hours, she continued. You will be on site for core meetings and critical windows. Outside that, you pick the shape of your day. What about on call? He asked automatically. You will still get 3 a.m. alerts, she said. Aurora does not promise a quiet life, but you will not be invisible. He turned the card over. The back was blank except for the Lumicore logo and a thin strip where the access stripe had been embedded. This is fast, he said. This is overdue, she replied. I am catching up. He let the words hang there. You could give this to anyone, he said. There are people with cleaner records, people who did not just blow up a client demo. You did not blow it up, she said. You executed a change that never should have been allowed to bypass procedure. You made a mistake that I would expect from someone who has spent years being told to make the pipes flow and not ask questions. That mistake cost you $8 million, he said. 80% of that was the sales team promising more than they understood, she said. You are not taking credit for their part. He studied her, trying to read what sat behind the calculation in her eyes. Why trust me with this? He said, lifting the badge a fraction, instead of someone who plays nicer with your executive friends. A small smile touched her mouth, the first real one he had seen. I do not need someone who plays nice, she said. I need someone who will argue with me when it matters, then do the work to make things right. I need someone who has already proven they will not sell us for a better offer. Derek would argue with you, Noah said. Derek would argue to move chips onto his side of the table, she replied. You stepped in front of a hit that was not yours to save other people. There is a difference. He thought of the boardroom the way the air had felt when he stood up. I did not do it for the company, he said. I know, she said. That is why it matters. You are not loyal to a logo. You are loyal to something human. That is the only thing that keeps a system like Aurora from becoming a weapon we cannot control. He frowned. What do you know about what I am loyal to? He asked. Ava's gaze slid to the yellow coat in his arms. Your daughter is 7, she said. Lily. She likes space documentaries. She calls the wall in her room the Sun River when the light hits it in the morning. She hates the cafeteria milk at school and gives it to her friend Sam instead. The hair on the back of his neck prickled. How do you know that? He said, his voice sharper than he intended. Ava did not look away. I have a security team whose job is to know everything they can about potential vulnerabilities, she said. When I realized Derek had tried to use you as a shield, I asked them to give me your file. I read it myself. You had me investigated, he said. I had you understood, she replied. We look very closely at the people who stand next to Aurora. If that is a deal breaker, you should walk away now. He tightened his jaw, the first flicker of anger giving way to something more complicated. It felt like standing in a room full of mirrors, catching glimpses of himself he had not entirely agreed to show. What did it tell you? He asked. Besides the grocery list of my life. That you have turned down 3 offers that would have paid you more than I am offering now, because they would have taken you away from Lily too much, she said. That you pick her up from school almost every day you are not on nights. That you have missed only 2 of her parent-teacher conferences, both during emergencies here. One of which was for a problem you fixed before anyone above your manager even knew it existed. He remembered those nights, the quiet arguments with his own exhaustion. It also told me you have not filed a single complaint about being passed over, she added. Not with HR, not with anyone. You just kept doing the work. Complaining does not change much, he said. Sometimes it does, she said. Sometimes it just makes noise. You chose not to make noise. That is its own data point. He looked down at the badge again. The title line did not blur this time. And what do you want from me? He asked. Exactly. I want you to lead the team that stabilizes Aurora and takes it live, she said. I want you to build the rails that keep it from falling into the wrong hands. I want you to tell me when I am about to make a stupid decision with it. And I want you to remember that you are allowed to say no if someone tries to push you into a corner. And when you try to push me, he said, I expect you to push back if I deserve it, she replied. The idea of standing across from her in a room like this and telling her she was wrong felt almost absurd. Yet, she said it as if it were obvious. He thought of Lily at the kitchen table, carefully gluing foam planets onto wires. He saw the way her face lit when he showed up at school, the way she gripped his hand crossing parking lots. "You said flexible hours," he said. "Define flexible." "You will be here for core work windows," she said. 9 to 3 most days. Mornings if we are doing releases. Nights if Aurora decides to misbehave. Outside that you log in from wherever you need to. I do not care where your body is as long as your brain is in the room when it counts. "So I can still pick her up," he said. "Most days," she said. "When you cannot, I expect you to tell her the truth instead of pretending nothing is different." He caught the edge in her voice. It sounded personal. "You have kids?" he asked before he could stop himself. "No," she said. "Just a company that acts like one." She let the half-joke hang for a second, then shook her head slightly, as if brushing away a thought. "Look," she said, "I am not offering you comfort. This will be hard. It will be chaotic. Some days you will regret saying yes. But it will be yours to regret, not something Derek took, not something I manipulated you into without your consent." He turned the badge over once more, then lowered it. "And if I say no," he said, "then you walk out of here with your daughter's coat and your severance," she said. "You find another job, maybe one you like, maybe not. You survive, and Aurora will still need someone. I will hire someone else. Maybe they will be as honest as you. Maybe they will not." He thought of Derek standing in the center of this room, arguing that he had been left out. He thought of the virus in the core, the way it would have twisted the system from the inside if she had not caught it. He thought of the quiet satisfaction that had lived under his frustration all these years when a system stayed up because of a fix he had slipped in at 2 in the morning. "I do not know if I am the right person for this," he said. "I am just a guy who keeps the lights on." Ava looked up at the Aurora display at the shifting patterns of gold and orange. "Keeping the lights on is very close to godhood in this room," she said. "The fact that you do not think you are the right person is the only reason I am willing to trust you with it." He let the weight of that sit with him. The hum of the servers, the faint buzz of the lights, the soft tap of Ava's fingers on the console. His own breathing sounded too loud in his ears. Finally, he slid the badge clip onto his shirt pocket. The plastic clicked into place. "If I do this," he said, "I am not covering for anyone else. Not you, not your board, not your sales team." "I am not asking you to," she said. "I am asking you to tell the truth, even when it hurts us." He nodded once. "Then yes," he said, "I will take it." For the first time since he had met her, the tension around her eyes eased. "Good," she said. "Aurora has waited long enough." She glanced at the yellow coat in his arms again. "Go home," she said. "Give that to Lily. Tell her whatever version of this day you think she can handle. Be back tomorrow at 9. Use the badge. It will work everywhere you need it to." He raised his brows. "Even up here?" he asked. "Especially up here," she said. The elevator was quiet on the ride down. Noah stared at his reflection in the doors, the badge on his chest, the coat in his arms. When he stepped out into the lobby, the world looked the same as it had that morning, rain streaking the glass, people moving through the space with practiced urgency. Only the weight on his shirt and in his hands had changed. That evening, the kitchen smelled of tomato sauce and garlic. Lily sat at the table, one leg tucked under herself, coloring in a half-finished rainbow. The old TV in the corner murmured from a channel playing a science show, planets drifting across the screen. He hung the yellow coat back on its hook by the door. It looked right there where it belonged. "Dad," Lily said without looking up, "you are home early?" He glanced at the microwave clock. It was later than she thought, but earlier than he would have returned from a normal shift after a day like this. "Yeah," he said. "Things changed." She set the crayon down and studied his face. "Bad changed or good changed?" she asked. He thought of the boardroom, the box, the elevator, the lab, the frozen image of Derek, the swirling lights of Aurora, the badge now sitting on the counter between the salt and pepper shakers. "Both," he said, "but I think we can work with it." She considered that, then nodded, apparently satisfied. "Can I put glitter on Saturn?" she asked. He smiled. "Within reason," he said. Later, after she had gone to bed, and the apartment had settled into its familiar night sounds, he picked up the badge again. The plastic caught the light from the street lamp outside, casting a small reflection onto the table. He turned it over in his hand, feeling the edges. On the other side of the city, servers hummed in a secure room, a field of gold shifting on a suspended screen. In the morning, he would walk back into that building, with a different key and a different place to stand. For now, he set the badge down next to Lily's drawing and turned off the light. The email hit his inbox just after 7 the next morning. Subject all hands. Mandatory attendance, location auditorium, level 10 time, 10:00 a.m. Noah stared at the screen in his apartment, the words floating above his reflection in the black border. The badge lay beside the laptop, its clip open like a small jaw. Lily sat at the table behind him, chewing toast, her hair pulled into a lopsided ponytail she had insisted on doing herself. "Are you going to the big meeting too?" she asked, pointing her crust at his screen. "Looks like it," he said. "Is it boring?" "Very," he said. "Also complicated." She accepted that answer and turned back to her plate. The science show on the TV in the corner talked about stars being born out of clouds of dust. An hour later, he stood in front of the mirror by the door straightening his shirt. The badge hung from his collar. The new title under his name looked almost subtle from a distance. He slipped his jacket on, picked up his keys, and glanced at the yellow coat on its hook. "You are not forgetting it again," he murmured. The drive into Seattle took longer than usual. Rain had brought traffic down to a crawl on the highway. Wipers slid back and forth, smearing water into clean arcs and then losing ground. He inched forward with the rest of the cars, the city skyline gradually rising ahead, its towers piercing the low clouds. When he finally pulled into the Lumicore parking structure, his muscles already felt tight from gripping the steering wheel too long. He found a spot, turned off the engine, and sat for a second in the quiet. The badge felt heavier today. In the lobby, people clustered in small groups, coffee in hand, eyes flicking toward the bank of elevators more often than usual. There was a low buzz, the sound of speculation. "You think it is about the crash? They lost the client, what else would it be? Maybe they are announcing cuts." He swiped his badge at the gate. The light flashed green without hesitation this time. It was a small detail, but it sent a ripple through him. Yesterday, that same system had locked him out. On the 10th floor, the auditorium doors stood open. The room beyond was darker than the hallway. The seats terraced down toward a stage lit in cool white. A massive screen loomed behind the podium, its surface currently blank. He slid into a row near the side, not so far back that he could pretend to hide, not so close that he would feel the heat of the lights. People filled the seats around him, the murmur swelling and receding like waves. Miguel dropped into the chair next to him, breath slightly short from hurrying. "You came back," Miguel said quietly. "Apparently," Noah said. Miguel's gaze dropped to the badge. His eyes widened when he read the title. "What did you do?" he whispered. "I said yes," Noah said. Miguel stared at him, then closed his mouth on whatever answer he had been about to give. He sat back, processing. The lights dimmed further. Conversations cut off mid-sentence. A spotlight narrowed onto the stage as a side door opened, and Ava Sterling walked out. She did not use notes. She did not bring a tablet. She stood at the podium in a simple dark suit, hair pulled back, no jewelry that caught the light. The room settled around her like air finding its level. "Thank you for being here," she said. Her voice carried easily amplified but not booming. She did not clear her throat or pause to arrange her thoughts. She looked out at the rows of faces as if she had memorized them. "Yesterday," she said, "this company experienced a very public failure." Noah felt hundreds of shoulders shift almost in unison. "We lost a client," she continued. "We lost $8 million in revenue. We also lost something more important than that." Silence stretched. "We lost our sense of ourselves," she said. "At least for a moment." Noah watched her hands. They rested lightly on the edges of the podium. No white-knuckled grip, no notes to shuffle. The only movement was a small tap of her thumb now and then. "You all saw some version of what happened," Ava said. "You saw a crash. You heard about a mistake. Many of you watched as I fired someone in a boardroom." A few heads turned, scanning the crowd. Noah kept his eyes on the stage. "I made a decision in that room that looked one way from the outside," she said. "Today I am going to tell you what it looked like from here." She pressed a button tucked into the side of the podium. The screen behind her came to life. The Lumicore logo flashed briefly, then vanished, replaced by an image of a network diagram. Lines, nodes, familiar shapes, but rendered more elegantly than the internal dashboards. "This is the view you know," she said. "Edge infrastructure, data flows, the part of our work that has a name on the website." The diagram folded into itself, shrinking, and reappeared in a corner of the screen. The rest of the display filled with a swirling pattern of golden points. The word Aurora appeared above it. "This is the part you do not know," she said, "at least not officially." A murmur went through the room. "For 5 years, a small group in this company has been working on a system called Aurora," Ava said. Aurora is the core reason Lumicore exists. Our products are real. Our contracts are real. They are also a shield. Miguel shifted in his seat. Noah could feel his friend looking at him, but he stayed focused on the stage. 2 nights ago, Ava said, someone tried to sabotage Aurora. Not from the outside, from inside this building. The word inside hung there like smoke. She tapped again. The screen changed to show the security footage from the server room. The view of the hooded figure entering, sitting, typing. The room around Noah seemed to lean forward as one. This footage was taken in a restricted server environment, Ava said. What you are seeing should never have happened. On screen, Derek's face lifted briefly into frame, clear and damning. Gasps broke the quiet. Someone swore under their breath. A woman 2 rows ahead of Noah covered her mouth with her hand. This is Derek Cole, Ava said. Until yesterday, he was part of our leadership team. The footage paused on Derek's profile. The email thread appeared beside it, blurred slightly, but legible enough. Mr. Cole accepted payment from a competitor to deliver Aurora into their hands in a broken state, she said. He inserted malicious code into our core system and attempted to hide it under someone else's credentials. He is no longer employed here. Law enforcement has been notified. Her voice did not rise. She simply stated the facts. He worked with you, Ava said. He represented this company in rooms where I was not. He shaped how some of you saw me. That betrayal is not something I can undo with a meeting or a new policy. The room was very still. Noah could sense shame and anger mixing in the air, though no one spoke. Yesterday, when the system crashed during a client demo, you saw me fire someone, she said. You saw me fire the wrong person. The words landed heavily. In that moment, I knew 2 things, she continued. 1, that the code causing the crash did not belong to the man I was terminating. 2, that the man I was terminating had voluntarily stepped into the line of blame to protect his team. She let that hang. I could have corrected it quietly, she said. I could have smoothed it over in a memo. I chose not to. I wanted you to see everything clearly. The failure, the cost, and the person who bore it. She turned her head slightly, looking toward the side of the auditorium. Noah Reyes, she said. Come out here. For a second, Noah did not move. His body lagged behind his awareness as if the name belonged to someone else. Then Miguel nudged his elbow. That is you, Miguel whispered. Noah stood. The motion drew eyes. People in his row made space as he stepped past their knees, one hand closing around the back of a seat for balance. He felt hundreds of gazes following him down the aisle. The lights from the stage were brighter up close. As he climbed the short set of steps, the audience blurred into a mass of shadow beyond the brightness. He could make out a few faces near the front rows, but not their expressions. He stopped beside Ava at the center of the stage. The floor under his feet felt too solid, and not solid enough at the same time. This is the man I fired yesterday, Ava said, turning back to the audience. I did it in a room where almost no one stood up for him. I did it knowing that he had not caused the failure that cost us $8 million. A ripple went through the crowd. Noah spotted the HR director near the front, her posture rigid. I watched his team stay silent, Ava said. I watched others avert their eyes. I watched one person, the one most at risk, claim the fault so the blow would not spread. She looked at him, then not as a prop, but as if she were checking that he was still there. Noah took responsibility for a failure he did not cause, she said. He did it to protect people who would not have done the same for him. He did it knowing he could lose his job, his reputation, his stability. Her words pressed against his skin. He shifted his weight, wanting to disappear and having nowhere to go. I tested him, she said, brutally, publicly. I wanted to see what he would do when everything was taken from him. A few heads turned sharply at the word tested. I am not proud of that part, she added, but I am clear about what I learned. She reached down and picked something up from the podium. It was a badge identical to the one on his shirt. She held it up so the camera could zoom in and project it on the screen behind them. On the enormous screen, his face appeared. Under it, the title line glowed, Lead Systems Architect. For the record, Ava said, Noah did not fail this company. This company failed him. The silence broke not with talking, but with the first scattered claps. Someone in the back started. Someone near the front joined. The sound grew uneven at first, then gathering into a sustained applause. Not everyone clapped. Noah could see pockets of stillness, people with arms folded, expressions tight. But enough hands met enough hands that the sound filled the room. Noah stood there under the lights, eyes stinging not entirely from their brightness. He had not cried since the hospital. He was not going to start here. He should have been promoted years ago, Ava said over the noise. Instead, his path was blocked by someone who feared what he could become. She paused, letting the applause wind down to a manageable level. "Effective immediately," she said. "Noah Reyes is our new lead systems architect. He will oversee Project Aurora and the systems that support it. He has my full trust and authority to do what is necessary to protect this company from the kinds of failures you saw yesterday." She turned to him and extended her hand palm open between equals. Standing there, Noah saw flashes in the crowd. Miguel, eyes bright. Priya, one hand over her mouth. The intern from the 12th floor sitting near the back, leaning forward on his knees. Others he did not recognize, faces turned toward him, with various combinations of guilt, curiosity, and something like hope. He thought of Lily in her classroom drawing rings around Saturn. He thought of her yellow coat on the hook dry and ready. He took Ava's hand. Her grip was firm, warm. Cameras from internal comms caught the moment and threw it onto the screen behind them, a large replay of a small gesture. The applause swelled again, some people rising to their feet, others staying seated, but the sound was there. A chord of something settled in his chest. Not triumph, not relief, something quieter. A recognition that the ground had shifted under him and that he was still standing. Ava released his hand and stepped slightly back, not in front of him, not behind him. "Get used to seeing him," she told the room. "He will be in your meetings. He will be in your code reviews. When he asks what you are doing, tell him the truth." Several people laughed, nervous and genuine at the same time. Noah allowed himself a small, wry smile. As he looked out over the sea of faces, the auditorium did not feel quite as large as it had when he walked in. It still towered, but now there was a line from this stage to the 12th floor, to a kitchen table in Tacoma, to a girl who believed her father could fix things that broke. He did not know what any of these people would do tomorrow. He did not know how the next crisis would unfold. Right now, he only knew that he was no longer on the outside of the glass pressing his hand against it. He was in the light, and the room was watching. When the meeting broke, people spilled out of the auditorium in uneven currents. Voices rose and fell louder than before, threaded with words like Aurora and sabotage and promotion. Noah stayed near the front a moment longer, letting the rows empty. The stage lights cooled behind him. On the big screen, the LumaCore logo had returned a bland mask over everything that had just happened. Miguel waited at the bottom of the steps. "You could have warned me," Miguel said as Noah reached him. "I could not warn myself," Noah said. Miguel squinted at his badge as if the title might vanish if he stared hard enough. "Lead Systems Architect," he read. "Sounds like you own gravity now." "Pretty sure that belongs to physics," Noah said. Miguel huffed a quiet laugh, then sobered. "She put you up there," he said. "In front of everyone. That is not nothing." "No," Noah said. "It is not." They walked out into the hall together. The crowd thinned as people took different turns heading back to their floors. A few slowed when they saw Noah, as if trying to decide whether to speak. Priya approached first. She held a notebook to her chest, knuckles pale around the edge. "Noah," she said, "I never said thank you for yesterday." "You do not have to," he said. "I know," she replied. "I am doing it anyway." Her eyes shone not quite tears, but close. She swallowed and added, "If you need someone for logging or metrics, I have ideas." "I know you do," he said. "We will talk." She nodded and stepped aside. Others followed her lead. Short comments, awkward apologies. An engineer from another team admitted he had assumed the worst. A manager from support said she had argued for him in private once and regretted not doing it out loud. The words did not erase what had happened, but they changed the shape of the space around him. Yesterday he had walked through this building as a problem. Today people saw him as a possible solution. When the elevator doors closed on him, and Miguel, the noise of the hallway cut off, the car began its climb toward 12. "How does it feel?" Miguel asked. "Strange," Noah said. "Like someone changed the labels on all the doors while I was asleep." "You earned it," Miguel said. Noah thought of the HR forms with Derek's signature in the deferment box. "That is not how this works," Noah said. "People earn a lot of things they never get." Miguel opened his mouth to argue, then shut it. He bumped Noah's shoulder with his own instead. "Are you going to be too important to eat stale donuts with us in the break room now?" he said. "I will have someone send you a memo from my corner office," Noah said. The elevator dinged. The doors opened onto the familiar corridor of the 12th floor. It looked the same as it always had. Beige walls, scuffed baseboards, a coffee stain on the carpet near the copy room that no one had ever managed to fully clean. Noah stepped out and hesitated. His cubicle stood where he had left it, the box still on the desk. The mug with Lily's paint sat inside the dinosaur beside it. On the chair, the impression of his last shift lingered in the fabric. Harper appeared in the aisle, moving faster than usual, auburn hair loose around her shoulders. She stopped when she saw him, eyes searching his face for signs of damage. "You all right?" she asked. "Define all right," he said. She snorted softly, relief in the sound. Then she followed his gaze to the badge. "So, it is true," she said. "She pulled you up." "That is one way to put it," he said. Harper looked at him for a long second. "I have been banging on that door for years," she said. "I am glad someone finally opened it." He shifted the box back onto the desk with a small thud. "Why did you not tell me," he asked, "about the reviews?" She raised her brows. "I thought I did," she said. "In my own blunt way. I told you you were being wasted. I told you you were carrying weight that did not match your pay grade." "You told me to keep my head down and not quit," he said. "I told you not to quit for the wrong thing," she replied. "I assumed at some point the right thing would catch up." She shook her head, a flash of anger tightening her mouth. "I did not know Derek was sitting on those approvals," she said. "I knew something smelled off, but I did not see his fingerprints until she showed me the logs." He nodded. "She wants me on Aurora," he said, "leading the stabilization." Harper let out a breath. "Good," she said. "Someone who cares about the actual bones of this place should be in that room." She looked past him toward the rest of the floor. "You still have a desk here if you want it as a second base," she said. "We will pretend it is not weird to have a director-level brain hiding in a tech cubicle." "I think I am supposed to be upstairs now," he said. "Then go," she said. "We will keep the ugly coffee warm for you." He left the box on the desk for the moment, mug peeking over the edge as if it were holding his place. Back in the elevator, he pressed the unmarked button Ava had used. The car hummed in a slightly different way as it rose, a faint shift in tone that most people would not notice. When the doors opened on the quiet corridor of Aurora's floor, he stepped into the cooler air with a different sense of ownership. Yesterday, this space had felt like a hidden chamber in someone else's house. Today, it felt like a room he had keys to. The lab lights glowed at half strength. A handful of people were already there, leaning over screens, talking in low voices. Some he recognized from rare interactions in the past. Others he had only seen in passing. A woman with short hair and thick glasses looked up first. "You are Reyes," she said. "I am June, modeling lead." She spoke as if she had been expecting him. "Nice to meet you," he said. "Call me Noah." A tall man with a shaved head swiveled in his chair. "Cal," he said. "Infrastructure here, but I guess we are sharing that now." He sounded wary, not hostile, protective of his territory. "I am not here to knock your tools over," Noah said, "just to make sure they do not catch fire." Cal regarded him for a second, then nodded. "Fair enough," he said. Noah moved toward the central console. Aurora's display rolled in a slow, thoughtful pattern, golden points shifting like schools of fish in clear water. The logs from the previous night showed stable runs, self-checks, controlled tests. He placed his palms on the edge of the console, feeling the slight vibration of the equipment through the metal. "Status," he asked June. "We pulled the payload Derek injected and quarantined it," she said. "We are still untangling the edges. It tried to write itself into the pattern recognizers in a dozen tiny ways." "Any traces left?" he asked. "Some," she said. "They are like splinters. You do not notice them until you lean on them." "We are not leaning on anything until we have a clean sweep," he said. She smiled faintly. "Good," she said. "I was hoping you would say that." They ran through the current state together. June talked fast when she was in her zone, a stream of terms and references that would have sounded like noise to anyone outside their field. Cal added context on network quirks, small latency issues, hardware constraints. Noah listened, asked questions, pulled details into a coherent map in his head. This was where he felt most natural, in the thick of systems, where problems could be seen and touched through numbers. Between tasks, people orbited around him with cautious curiosity. A younger engineer with a silver ring in his eyebrow came up to introduce himself as Samir Data Ingestion. A quiet woman from testing said her name was Lena, and that she had been trying to slow Derek down for months. "He always had a reason to push ahead," she said. "Deadline, investor call, whatever. I knew it was wrong. I do not know why I did not shout louder." "You said something?" Noah said. "That is already more than most." She looked slightly less guilty at that. As the morning wore on, the lab found a rhythm. Commands crossed between stations. Monitors updated. Aurora responded patient and unhurried, a mind without nerves. A little before noon, Ava walked in. She did not make a speech. She walked the perimeter scanning displays, asking short questions, listening to the answers. When she reached the central console, she stopped beside Noah. "How does it feel?" she asked quietly. "Like we are holding something that wants to move faster than we do," he said. "That is accurate," she said. She glanced at the timelines he had drawn on a side panel. "Conservative," she said. "We just had someone try to corrupt the brain," he said. "I am not rushing the next phase." "Good," she said. "Fight me if I start pushing too hard." He gave her a look. "Do you push too hard often?" he asked. "All the time," she said. "It is how we got here." She moved away to talk to June and Cal. Noah watched her for a moment, noting how people straightened when she approached, how their sentences shifted from casual to exact. By late afternoon, they had a plan for the next few days. Clean up remaining traces of Derek's code, harden access paths, add another layer of auditing to credentials, build a small task force to simulate attack scenarios, and watch how Aurora responded. Noah scheduled a daily stand-up in the lab, the first at 9 the next morning. People accepted the invites without complaint. Some even seemed relieved to have a clear structure. He left the floor carrying a mental list of tasks and a physical ache in his shoulders. The tension of the past 48 hours had not had time to work itself out of his muscles yet. On 12, he stopped by his cubicle long enough to move the box off the desk and slide it under. He set the mug back in its old spot, the dinosaur beside it, a small anchor. "You keeping 2 offices now?" Miguel asked, leaning against the partition. "Something like that," Noah said. Miguel nodded at the dinosaur. "Director level, same gross little plastic guardian," he said. "Some things do not need promotions," Noah said. By the time he reached the parking garage, the sky had shifted from gray to a deeper stormy blue. The rain had eased to a mist. The city lights had started to blink on one window at a time. Traffic was lighter on the way home. He drove with the radio off, the sound of the tires on wet asphalt, a steady background. His mind replayed the day in fragments. Ava on stage, Aurora's golden field, the faces in the lab, June's quick mind, Cal's cautious acceptance. At the apartment, Lily met him at the door, sock feet sliding on the floor. "Hi, Dad," she said. "You are late." He checked the time. He was by 15 minutes. "Work ran long," he said. "Important people kept talking." "Are you an important people now?" she asked. He thought of the stage, the lights, the badge. "To some systems," he said. "To one 7-year-old I have always been." She rolled her eyes in a way that was pure theater. "You are being weird," she said. "Do you want spaghetti or grilled cheese?" He chose spaghetti. She helped stir the sauce, careful with the wooden spoon. Tomatoes splattered the counter. The smell of garlic filled the room again. After dinner, they sat at the table with her homework. She drew lines between planets and names, tongue caught between her teeth in concentration. He corrected a backward letter, watched her erase it and redraw. When she was in bed, reading by the dim light of her bedside lamp, his phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. A message from an unknown internal number. "Rooftop, 8:30 A." He looked at the clock. 8:10. He picked up the badge, clipped it to his shirt, and grabbed his jacket. Before he left, he glanced at the yellow coat on its hook. "Stay dry," he said to the empty room, and stepped out into the damp night. The wind was stronger 60 floors up. Noah stepped out onto the rooftop and felt it push against his chest, cool and damp, carrying the sharp tang of rain and city grit. The air tasted cleaner than it did on the street, as if the exhaust never quite made it this high. Low clouds pressed close, reflecting the spill of lights from downtown Seattle. A waist-high glass barrier ringed the edge of the roof. Beyond it, the city spread in all directions. Streets glowed in lines of red and white. Windows burned in clusters. In the distance, the black shape of the sound was only a darker cut in the sky. Ava stood near the edge, hands tucked into the pockets of a plain, dark coat. No heels, just worn sneakers. Her hair was down, whipped around by the wind. The picture of her here, stripped of the armor she wore in the boardroom, made something in his chest ease a little. "You got my message?" she said without turning. "It was hard to miss," he said. "Secret rooftop invitation. Very subtle." A small smile touched her mouth. She looked out over the city for a beat, then nodded toward a spot beside her. "Come here," she said. He crossed the gravel, the stones crunching under his shoes, and stopped at the glass. It was cool against his fingertips when he brushed them along the top. The wind tugged at his jacket. Somewhere below, a siren wailed, distant and thin. From up here, the tower they worked in looked less like a threat and more like a platform. A place to stand, not just a structure looming over other people. "You wanted to see me," he said. "I did," she said. "I figured you might sleep better if we talked before this day is officially over." "I am not sure sleep is in the cards either way," he said. They stood in companionable silence for a moment. The city moved below them, tiny cars flowing along wet streets, trains sliding past each other in brief crossings. When I was 24, Ava said, I moved to this city with 2 suitcases and a refurbished laptop. He glanced at her. The wind pushed a strand of hair across her cheek. She did not brush it away. I did not have a plan, she continued. Not a real one. I had some code a notebook full of half ideas and a list of companies that would not answer my emails. That sounds familiar, he said. I found a job in a place that smelled like burned coffee and fluorescent lights, she said. Not unlike your floor. I stayed there until I realized no one at the top knew my name, and they never would. So I quit. I borrowed money I should not have. I slept on a concrete floor in a warehouse with a server rack for heat. He could almost see it. A younger version of her shoulders hunched over a keyboard, the glow of a single monitor in a dark space. I told myself I was building something that would matter, she said. Most days it felt like I was just trying not to drown. The wind tugged at her coat. She shifted her stance, bracing her feet a little wider. People showed up, she said. Smart ones, hungry ones. Some believed in what I was doing, some believed in what they thought they could get out of it. I did not always know which was which. She glanced at him. You have met Derek, she said. You know how convincing people can look when they are pointed at you like a smile. He thought of Derek's easy charm, the way he filled a room. I trusted him with parts of this place I should not have, she said. I let him stand between me and too many of you. That is on me. She let the words sit there quiet and solid. You built a thing that attracts sharks, he said. I do not think that was ever going to be neat. Maybe not, she said, but I could have fed them less. He watched her profile, the line of her jaw, the set of her mouth. In the dim light, she looked younger, closer to the woman in the warehouse than the CEO in the tailored suit. Why tell me all of this, he asked. Because I am about to ask you to do something difficult, she said, and I would like you to know that I am not asking from a place of comfort. He rested his forearms on the glass hands loosely clasped. Everything today felt difficult, he said. You will have to be more specific. Ava took a breath that fogged the glass in front of her. I am good at building things fast, she said. I am less good at building them with softness. Somewhere along the way, I stopped checking on the people under the hardware. I started treating everything like an input or an output. She turned to face him fully now, back to the city. The wind pressed her coat against her frame. You reminded me the cost of that, she said. Not because you said anything, because you stepped forward when everyone else stepped back. He shook his head slightly. I already told you, he said. I did not do that for you. I know, she said. That is exactly why it matters. And that is exactly why I need you to keep that part of yourself intact when this job starts eating at the edges. The word need made him uneasy. It also rang true. What if I cannot, he asked. What if this place does to me what it did to you, to Derek? That is the risk, she said. You might become another version of us, efficient, sharp, half awake. And you want that, he said. No, she said. I want you to fight me when you see it happening, especially in yourself. He looked at the lights in her eyes, small reflections of the city behind him. That is a lot to put on one person, he said. It is not all on you, she said. But someone has to be first to say something when we drift. You have already proven you will speak when it costs you. That is more than I can say for most people at our level. Our level. The phrase landed with surprising weight. You talk like I am already part of whatever circle you think you are in, he said. You stood on that stage next to me, she said. That circle is crowded whether you want it to be or not. He let out a slow breath. The air clouded in front of his face and then disappeared. They are going to resent you, he said, for what you did, for how you did it. Probably, she said. Some already did. Now they will have better excuses. And me, he said. They will resent me too. Some, she said. Others will follow your lead. People like stories. You are a good one at the moment. He grimaced. I did not mean to be, he said. Neither did I, she said. Most days I wanted to be anonymous and rich. The universe had other plans. A gust of wind pushed against them. Raindrops fine and light began to prick the glass and their faces. Not a downpour, just enough to remind them where they were. Why the rooftop? He asked. You could have said this in an office. She looked past him out toward the horizon. Down there everything echoes, she said. Walls remember. Up here it feels like the sound leaks into the clouds. A small shiver ran through him. The coat was not quite enough against the chill. She noticed. You cold? She asked. A little, he said. She nodded at his chest. Badge working? She asked. It got me up here, he said. Tomorrow it will get you into rooms where people expect you to have answers, she said. You will not always have them. Say so when you do not. You realize that is not a common leadership practice, he said. That is why I hired you, she said, to start different practices. They fell quiet again. Below them, a crane arm swung slowly over a construction site, lights blinking at its tip. A ferry moved through the dark water, a stripe of brightness against the sound. Do you regret it? He asked suddenly. Building all of this. She took her time. Sometimes, she said, on days when it feels like I traded every soft thing in my life for a bigger server room. And today, he asked. Today, she said, someone I was wrong about walked back into my building, took a job that terrifies him, and forced me to admit my own mistakes in front of everyone I lead. She tilted her head. So today less. He let that answer sit. You know, she added, mouth quirking, you are allowed to tell me when you regret saying yes. I will, he said. You might get tired of hearing it. I do not tire easily, she said. The rain picked up a little, a fine mist that beaded on the glass and in their hair. The city below did not care. Lights stayed on. Cars kept moving. Ava pushed away from the barrier. You should get home, she said. You have a kid who wakes up early. You know her schedule too, he asked. She wakes up before sunrise on Saturdays to watch rocket launches on your old laptop, Ava said. She has strong opinions about which astronauts have the best call signs. He blinked. Your file really did go deep, he said. She shrugged. I was a lonely kid with a modem and a lot of time, she said. Old habits die hard. They walked back toward the rooftop door together. The handle was cold under his hand. Before he pulled it open, she spoke again. Noah, she said. He looked at her. When everything is falling apart, she said, and you have to choose between saving the system and saving the people in it, call me. I figured that was in the job description, he said. It is, she said. I just want to hear you say you will do it. He considered the question, then nodded. I will call, he said. Good, she said. They went back inside. The stairwell was quiet concrete walls sweating faint damp. At the elevator, she pressed the lobby button for him, then one of the higher floors for herself. As the doors began to close, she caught them with her hand. Noah, she said again. Yeah, he said. You are not here because I did you a favor, she said. You are here because this place is better with you in it. Remember that when it tries to tell you otherwise. He met her eyes. I will try, he said. She let go of the door. It slid shut, cutting off the cool, controlled air of the upper floors. The elevator hummed as it descended. He watched the floor numbers count down, feeling the day stack itself behind him. By the time he reached the lobby, his shoulders had dropped a fraction, not from defeat but from a different kind of readiness. Outside, the rain had thinned to a light fall that the yellow streetlights turned into glitter. The tower's glass face reflected the city back at itself, a tall double of the world. At home, Lily had fallen asleep on top of her blankets book, face down beside her hand. He eased it away, marked the page, and tucked the covers around her. The glow-in-the-dark stars on her ceiling shone in uneven clusters. He stepped back into the hall and closed her door part way, leaving a slice of light. In the small living room, his laptop waited on the table. Beside it lay the badge and a new drawing Lily had made that afternoon. Two figures stood under a sky filled with circles and dots that could have been planets or raindrops. One of the figures held something rectangular in their hand, colored in gray. The other wore a bright yellow coat. He picked up the drawing and turned it toward the light. Carefully, he pinned it to the inside cover of his worn notebook, the one he carried to the lab. Then he clipped the badge onto the notebook's edge and set both by the door, ready to grab in the morning. Outside the window, the rain tapped a soft rhythm against the glass. In a room high above the city, a field of golden points continued to shift and flow, waiting for someone to guide what it would become. Noah switched off the kitchen light and stood for a moment in the dim, listening to the sounds of the apartment, the water, the faint hum of distant traffic. Then he turned toward his couch, toward sleep, and the work waiting on the other side. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.